Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about animals in the city, so like cool ones you can see, how they adapt, fun things like that. So as we know, or I'm sure recognize, most urban human life is really separate from nature. We walk on concrete, drive in cars, live in buildings, and trees and other plant life are pretty limited. We see animals like squirrels and birds and dogs and other domestic animals, but just like thinking about it, there has to be other animals out there, right? Because if you have a bird, birds need insects, and squirrels, while they aren't carnivorous, they need trees, and trees need entire ecosystems to support them. So the question that we're going to answer today is what animals make up the urban ecosystem. First off, let's talk about how cities impact ecosystems. As we learned in the previous lesson, Pennsylvania has a ton of freshwater biomes. And before it was built, the city used to be a wetland, marsh, or freshwater ecosystem before it was converted into a city. This conversion obviously means loss of biodiversity, loss of life, and it also means that the tiny bits of habitat that are left behind, things like strips of forest along highways, tiny parks in cities, are fragmented, and that also reduces animal biodiversity, and it reduces the ability of animals to travel and transport between habitats. So for example, there's only 25% of plant species and 8% of birds that have been seen within cities. Animals in city and urban habitats tend to be small animals like squirrels and raccoons, mid-sized animals that easily adapt to a range of habitats and conditions. And these animals that live in cities also have adaptations that aren't seen in more rural animals. For example, birds in the city have a pitch that is higher and louder than those that aren't in the city, which allows them to be louder and be able to be heard over the noise of the city. And animals that are adapted to human urban environments tend to have larger brains as well to better adapt to their new environment, which is pretty cool. So we know about squirrels, birds, but a little mid-sized animal that you might not have seen before are flying squirrels. A flying squirrel is essentially a squirrel that has a little membrane between their front and back legs that they extend and use to glide through trees, sort of like how we have that little membrane between our fingers, but theirs just covers their entire area and they use it to glide through the air. And fun fact, they can cover more than 150 feet in a single glide. These animals are nocturnal, so you can only see them at night, and if you want to increase your odds of seeing them, walk through a park at night and spread peanut butter on the tree bark. They really like that. Another interesting animal around the city you might not have seen before are Starnosed moles. These moles have 22 pink little appendages for a snout that makes a star shape, and because they have no eyes, they use these appendages that are called iris organs as their primary sensory receptor, meaning they use it to get around and to quote-unquote see their environment. They're also the world's fastest eater, being able to consume the insect in 1/4 of a second. They can also smell underwater, which is really cool. They blow bubbles out of their nose and suck them back in, and they can smell the environment. Some plants and animals, mostly animals, have evolved to be what is called Pseudotopic, meaning that they've evolved to be dependent on humans. So like unlike domesticated dogs and cats, which have evolved in the same way, these animals that are xenotropic still live in outside ecosystems and areas, so they can't survive, for example, winters without human shelter or built areas. House and city mice have evolved this way. And coyotes, while not evolved to be dependent on humans, they do wander into cities every now and then. They come and eat discarded human food as well as other tiny animals that live in the city, and as we mentioned earlier, cities reduce biodiversity, so what's left are mid-sized animals like squirrels and raccoons, which are perfect prey for coyotes. So they have adapted to coming into cities to looking for prey, and they've actually been spotted around Old City, Philadelphia a couple times. Plants in urban areas are also adapted to living in urban areas. So for example, there's a type of weed that grows in France that has seeds that blow away in the wind, and these seeds have adapted to either be light or to be heavy. And because these weeds are in the city, when they land on concrete surfaces, they get blown away and they can't grow. So they've evolved to grow heavier seeds in the city so that they don't blow away as easy. However, not every single animal has adapted to our presence. There are some animals that have been the same since the dinosaur age, and they live right near us actually. The Squirrel River is home to a fish called the Atlantic sturgeon, which has been around for 70,000 years. And it's a giant fish, over 300 pounds, and every year they swim through the river to lay their eggs. So those are just some of the cool animals that live around the city. I encourage you to go out and look around for yourself, see what you can see. But I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next lesson.